Russia is waging a hybrid war against Europe, and the regular appearance of drones in European skies is part of this strategy. This was stated today from the podium of the European Parliament by the President of the European Commission, Ursula von der Leyen. According to the official, the Kremlin's goal is to divide the European Union and thus weaken support for Ukraine. Her subordinates agree. The European Commissioner for Defense believes that these hybrid provocations could continue for years. What the European Union is preparing in response will be reported by Radio Liberty's correspondent in Brussels, Zoryana Stepanenko.
According to the European Commission, hybrid provocations are already spreading beyond the eastern flank of Europe. Drones have been spotted not only in Poland and Romania, but also in Belgium, Denmark and Germany. The legislation now allows the police to shoot them down. One of Europe's largest defense giants, which manufactures air defense systems for Belgium, stated that drones are flying over its secret facilities with increasing frequency. And just recently, they were also spotted over the presidential palace in Finland, allegedly launched by a tourist from Hong Kong. The number of such incidents is rapidly increasing. A spokesperson for the European Commission believes this is a targeted campaign by Russia, aimed at destabilizing the EU. Across
the entire Union, undersea cables have been cut, airports and logistics hubs paralyzed by cyber attacks, and elections have become targets of malicious influence campaigns. This is a consistent and escalating campaign aimed precisely at unsettling our citizens. Europe must urgently equip itself with strategic response capabilities.
Most members of the European Parliament agreed with von der Leyen that Europe is in a state of hybrid war. There was also a comparison made to a grey zone, somewhere between war and peace. According to the European Commissioner for Defense, this could drag on for years. Politicians agree that Russia is testing the patience and capabilities of the European Union, and they consider the smartest response to be strengthening these capabilities without allowing themselves to be divided. The voices claiming that Europe does not need missiles and ammunition and that its residents are primarily concerned about inflation and their own purchasing power were in the minority in Parliament, and as usual, these were the extreme political forces, both left and right. In the context of responding to current threats, the so-called drone wall was mentioned in particular. This is one of the flagship proposals of the European Commission, which promises to deliver a roadmap for strengthening the EU's overall defense capability by 2030 by the end of October.
It's a pity that it took recent provocations for us to come to our senses. It seems we are poorly prepared for this future. At the moment, our defense is truly not ready to detect drones and track them as they cross our borders. From container ships, drones can destroy targets all along the entire European coastline. The question is what needs to be done.
The relevant European Commissioner believes that a drone wall can be built over the course of the next year. In the near future, he says, drones will be detectable by acoustic sensors, satellites and radars, while in the more distant future, interceptors, electronic warfare systems and mobile units will be needed. A key role is assigned to Ukraine due to its acquired experience. Zelensky has declared his readiness to share his experience. He is also sharing Ukrainian intelligence data with partners. The data shows. To launch drones, Russia is using a tanker from the so-called Shadow Fleet. There are more than 100 of them. It is planned to add them to the blacklist as part of the 19th sanctions package. Work on it is ongoing. From Brussels, Zoryana Stepanenko, Radio Svoboda, especially for TSN 1+1.
What do you think about the Russian war against Europeans? Be sure to write your thoughts about it in the comments to this broadcast on YouTube. And of course, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Meanwhile, I will continue with the TSN broadcast. Germany is granting police the authority to shoot down drones that violate the country's airspace. Today, the government has already approved the corresponding bill. Next, it must be approved by Parliament. After the law is passed, law enforcement will be able to neutralize any unidentified drones that pose a threat near airports, railway infrastructure, ships, government institutions, and the border. The German Minister of Internal Affairs has promised to create a separate unit within the police for this purpose. Specialists will be trained and equipped with all the necessary tools for the task, in particular with jammers and even lasers. Germany also plans to hold consultations with Ukraine and Israel, who have more experience in countering drones. The new law was decided upon after unknown drones paralyzed the operations of the Mülheim airport last Friday, resulting in dozens of flights being cancelled. Chancellor Friedrich Merz suggests that Russia is behind these provocations. Overall, throughout the past month, there have been regular violations of the airspace of European countries by unidentified drones. Dozens of drones entered Polish airspace and 2 Russian fighter jets entered Estonian airspace. Unidentified objects were also detected in Scandinavian countries and Belgium. Ukrainian intelligence is certain that Russia is using ships from the Shadow Fleet to launch them. Russian money for the benefit of Ukraine, the European Union, together with the United States, is putting pressure on Belgium to allow the use of the aggressor country's funds. The Financial Times reports that Western allies are insisting on using 140 billion euros for a reparations loan to Ukraine. They hope to agree on the decision by December of this year and to send the first tranches in the second quarter of 2026. However, according to journalists, Belgian Prime Minister Bart De Wever is very concerned about such steps, as he asked the other 26 European Union countries to guarantee the legal and financial risks that may arise from the use of Russian assets, so that Brussels would not have to return them on its own. Let me remind you, after the start of Russia's full-scale invasion of Ukraine in 2022, about 300 billion euros of the Russian central bank's assets were frozen in the West. Of that amount, approximately 190 billion are held by the Belgian international company Euroclear, which handles transactions and the custody of securities. Previously, the European Union was afraid to touch these funds, but over the past few weeks, this opposition has shifted, not least due to Donald Trump's calls to use Russian assets to finance Ukraine's defense.
Donald Trump did not wish Putin a happy birthday. The day before the Russian dictator celebrated his 73rd birthday, propaganda outlets meticulously kept a list of those who congratulated their boss. In addition to the leaders of post-Soviet countries, Putin was honored by Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu, India's Modi, Turkish President Erdogan, and Chinese leader Xi Jinping. However, a conversation with the President of the United States was not scheduled, Putin's aide Ushakov reported. All of this is happening against the backdrop of a noticeable cooling in their relations. Trump is threatening to supply Ukraine with long-range Tomahawk missiles. Putin responded that this would destroy relations with America. Donald Trump himself, the day before, hosted Canadian Prime Minister Mark Carney at the White House and brought up the topic of Russia himself, once again stating that he is very disappointed in Putin.
I get along very well with Putin, and I thought that was the case. I am very disappointed in him because I thought everything would be easy to resolve. But it turned out that perhaps this is more complicated than the Middle East.
Instead of serving, they were making shawarma. Based on materials from the State Bureau of Investigation, a military official will be tried for using soldiers in his own business. Investigators have completed the investigation regarding the deputy head of a unit in one of the military divisions in Donetsk region, who for 2 years forced his subordinates to build and work for the benefit of his family, particularly in the Pokrovsk district. On the officer's orders, 2 soldiers set up a street food kiosk. And while they were making shawarma, the state continued to pay them their full monthly salaries, including combat pay. This caused losses to the state budget of over 4 million. The officer faces up to 10 years behind bars. According to the State Bureau of Investigation, indictments against the 2 soldiers who followed their commander's illegal orders have been sent to court.